So, there I stood, backstage at the 2006 Emmys in a blind panic.
My show is called My Trip Down the Pink Carpet. It was a book. I wrote a book. It was published by Simon & Schuster, and they were going to roll it out. June release, which is like summer reading. But it rolled out with Tori Spelling, who had all these reality sort of, Lance Bass from NSYNC, the Crocodile Widow, I don't know if you remember in Australia, I can't remember, the Crocodile Widow, and my book just got lost. So on my own, I decided I'm going to take off in this. I had a van that belonged to a country western singer named Sarah Evans. We got 3 or 4 people, and we hit every gay pride from San Diego through San Francisco. We did 45 cities hawking that book. And what I would do is I would come out and tell stories from the book.
I'm just going to tell y'all something. I am a high school cheerleader stuck in a 55-year-old male body. If you were to cut me open, Hannah Montana would jump out.
We ended up Off-Broadway for 14 weeks, and I was really surprised that it got very good notices. If you're a sitcom actor from Hollywood, you don't dare, the hallowed, boards of Broadway. You don't dare, they'll sharpen those knives. Those critics will. They called me one time, he looks like the love child of Pia Zadora and the Pillsbury Doughboy. He sounds like Richard Simmons. Picture Toulouse-Lautrec, who was a dwarf, in a pompadour wig. I mean, awful notices in '92 with my first show that I took there. So I didn't want to go back, but I got really good notices, and it was a big success. And so they said, let's take it to London.
I was hired to play Ralph Short, the shortest member of the FBI in the history of the FBI. Ralph Short was a real man's man. He was the kind of man who makes up for his lack of physical stature by strutting around like a Bantam rooster. Oh, honey, I was more than a little worried about pulling this one off.
I was arrested 5 times for several indiscretions I'd really rather not discuss right now. But I ended up, the judge finally looked at me and said, look, put the plug in the jug. And I was in jail, and for 3 months, they were going to pay. It was horrid. And on the 17th day, they let me out because Robert Downey Jr., they had nowhere to put him. And so we shared a cell. They wouldn't let me out until the bars closed because of my past. So I had to sit there from 8 o'clock till 2 in the morning with Robert Downey Jr. It was December 11th, 1997. It was his first arrest. He was sick. He was coming off of something. And I'm just chattering away. I bumped into him a couple of times since then, but do you remember me?
Now, I had the first line. I was supposed to deliver it off camera. And so the director says, action! It's Ralph Short with the FBI. Open up or I am coming in.
The famous story about how I got the part of Will and Grace, they had written an episode for Miss Joan Collins. They had Madonna, they had Elton John, they had everybody. And they were going to write this episode where Joan Collins was going to steal Rosario the maid away from Megan Mullally's character, Karen Walker. And then they were going to get into this dynasty sort of, Karen Walker was going to tell her, you took a woman's maid. That's the worst, and they were going to get into a fight and pull each other's wigs off. And apparently there were problems. Joan Collins' management called the people and said, you really don't expect, do you, to pull Miss Collins' wig off? They said, well, of course we do. This is a sitcom. It'll be hilarious. He said, well, it's not going to happen. So they fired her. And I auditioned.
I was late for my audition for Will and Grace. Now, please remember, they were looking for a tiny Southern man in a white suit who chatters like castanets. I didn't know that. This is how I walked into my Will and Grace audition. Y'all, I'm so sorry I'm late. This woman in my church got shot. Y'all don't know her. Her name is Wanda Bethune. Honey, she had a little baby out of wedlock. It looked like a pig. She'd bring it to church and bows at its hair, frills on its socks. You'd look down, you didn't know what to say. Y'all, they were like this.
My show is opening February the 3rd, at the Apollo Theater. And honey, it ain't the Apollo in Harlem, it's the Apollo in London. And it's called My Trip Down the Pink Carpet, and it's a rollicking dog and pony show. I do everything. I turn cartwheels. I'm just shameless, you know, stories about me.